When my mother-in-law, Megan, learned that my husband was relocating abroad for work, she took drastic measures by taking our house away, leaving my daughter and me without a place to stay. In search of solace, I took my 3-year-old daughter to the park. Unexpectedly, we were approached by the police who, amidst the pouring rain, asked us to accompany them to the station. Cold and bewildered, I complied. At the station, I met Anna, a 33-year-old woman who also had an intricate tale to share. Anna recounted her journey of meeting her husband, Larry, at their workplace, their subsequent marriage, and the birth of their daughter, Catherine. She explained that she, along with Larry, Catherine, and Megan, had moved into a newly rented apartment. However, after Megan's husband passed away and she began experiencing knee problems, they purchased an apartment equipped with an elevator for easier accessibility. Although they had initially considered a house, the convenience of an apartment with an elevator was more suitable for Megan's condition. Despite a firm assurance from Larry's company that he would not be relocated following their home purchase, Larry was frequently sent on business trips to various states, which put a strain on Anna, especially with a young child to care for. Initially, Megan was supportive, helping with childcare and household duties. However, her behavior shifted dramatically. She no longer helped and even increased Anna's workload by leaving dirty dishes around. Although Megan would apologize when asked to rinse the dishes, she only followed through when Larry was present. This pattern led Anna to realize that Megan might be deliberately making life difficult for her. Despite Megan's knee problems and Anna's initial willingness to assist, her patience was waning due to Megan's manipulative tactics, such as offering to pick up items from the store and then failing to do so. This ongoing struggle had been a source of tension since they started living together. A friend of Anna's suggested that Megan's actions could be a form of bullying. With this perspective, Anna considered discussing the situation with Larry, despite her reluctance to add to his stress. The need for open communication seemed inevitable as the situation had been persistent and wearing. Despite my concerns about involving my husband in the ongoing issues with Megan, I was apprehensive because I feared it could lead to her being placed in a care facility, given she had no other family. I contemplated just sparing the situation until an incident significantly shifted my view. One day, I planned to drop off my daughter, Catherine, at my parents' house. They cherish the moments they get to have her for sleepovers. During our conversation, they suggested that I should consider staying over sometimes as well. While the idea appealed to me, I hesitated because of my worries about leaving Megan alone. After a short visit, I headed back to the apartment expecting Megan to be there. When I arrived, I realized I had left my keys at home. Not overly worried at first since Megan was supposed to be home, I rang the intercom. However, there was no answer from her room number. Wondering if perhaps she had stepped out, I decided to wait outside. 3 hours passed, and as it reached 8 p.m. with darkness enveloping the surroundings, another resident arrived, and I took the opportunity to enter the building with them. Confident that Megan rarely ventured out at night, I felt sure she was inside. I pressed the intercom button again, and although I heard the doorbell ring, there was still no response. As I waited by the door, I eventually heard a faint sound inside, confirming Megan was indeed there. Despite several attempts at the intercom, she refused to answer the door. Feeling utterly defeated, I spent the night at a nearby motel, planning to return only when Larry was back from his business trip. When I eventually shared the incident with Larry, explaining that Megan had locked me out, he was understandably upset on my behalf. However, Megan brushed it off, attributing it to her hearing loss with a dismissive comment, "Maybe I didn't hear it. I'm getting old, you know," accompanied by a hidden smirk. Relieved to be back inside the next day, I grabbed my keys and went to pick up Catherine from my parents' house, still processing the implications of Megan's actions and contemplating the need for a serious conversation with Larry about our living situation. When I shared the ongoing difficulties with Megan with my parents, they offered their unwavering support, reassuring me that I was always welcome back at their home. "Remember, you're our precious daughter," they said, their words comforting enough to bring tears to my eyes, though I quickly composed myself for Catherine's sake before heading back home. For a brief period, things at home with Megan were calm. However, this peace was disrupted when Larry's company confirmed his permanent international transfer. Having just invested in a new home, Larry approached me with a serious question. What do you think about staying in the US? Can you handle living with my mom? I struggled to respond immediately, concerned about the potential stress on Catherine. After some consideration, I decided it was best for us to stay in the US. Larry soon had to leave for Europe, and though he was worried, his work demands kept him busy. Once Larry left, life with Megan took a dramatic turn for the worse. Her demeanor changed significantly, and on a particularly stormy day, she dropped a bombshell. Now that Larry's gone, wouldn't it be better if you and Catherine move out? She suggested abruptly. Stunned, I asked for clarification, but she firmly stated, I'll take over. I can't relax with strangers in the house. Please leave right now. Her audacity was astonishing. While it was true we weren't blood relatives, I had always strived to make our cohabitation comfortable, treating her like family. To Megan, however, it seemed we were merely an inconvenience. Urged by Megan to leave immediately, Catherine and I found ourselves ousted, dressed as we were. With nowhere to go and amidst a downpour, I carried Catherine to a nearby park, hoping its shelter would provide some temporary refuge from the rain. Ideally, I would have checked into a motel or returned to my parents' house, but the immediacy of our eviction left me disoriented and scrambling to find a safe place for my daughter and myself. In the turmoil of our sudden eviction, I realized I had left my wallet and phone inside the house. Feeling utterly helpless, I sat in the park with Catherine, trying to decide our next steps as the relentless downpour continued. The cold began to seep in, and despite it being summer, the chill was harsh. Overcome by fatigue and the biting cold, I found myself drifting to sleep. The situation seemed dire, with the only apparent option being a daunting 2-hour walk to my parents' home. As I pondered our predicament, I noticed 2 lights cutting through the rain in the distance. Approaching closer, I could discern they were police officers. One of them called out, asking, "Are you Anna? And is this little one Catherine?" Surprised they knew our names, I weakly confirmed. The officer then requested, "Please come to the station with us." Confused and unsure of what had transpired, I inquired why we needed to go to the police station. Despite my reservations, they urged us into the patrol car, providing large towels to shield us from the cold and mentioning they had spare clothes for us at the station. Curious about how they knew to find us and why we were being taken to the station, I asked, "How did you know where to find us?" They responded, "We'll explain everything once we're back at the station. For now, just try to relax." Exhausted by the events, I dozed off and awoke as we arrived at the police station. Inside, to my astonishment, I saw Megan and my uncle. Wondering what was going on, I asked, "What are you doing here?" He explained that Larry had contacted him, suspecting I might be having issues with his mother, Megan. The situation was unfolding in a way I hadn't anticipated, signaling perhaps a turning point in our challenging living arrangements. Since my husband, Larry, was overseas, he had asked my uncle to keep an eye on things back home. My uncle revealed that Larry had discussed concerns with him previously, prompting him to watch over us while Larry couldn't be there himself. Earlier that day, my uncle had seen us in the rain and had considered offering us shelter, but Megan's extreme behavior led him to contact the police instead. That explained how the officers knew where to find us and why they came to our aid. At the police station, Megan, who was sitting on a sofa, glared at me, seemingly confused about why she was there. She protested, "Why do I have to be here? I have a bad knee. If Larry were here, this wouldn't be happening." Despite her complaints, the situation had escalated because of Larry's initiative in seeking help from my uncle. During discussions with the police, the possibility of legal consequences was brought up, leading to suggestions that I might need to hire an attorney. Megan scoffed at the idea, dismissing it as an overreaction. "An attorney? That's an overreaction. I just locked the door, that's all. I didn't do anything else," she claimed. My uncle defended us, emphasizing the severity of Megan's actions in throwing us out into the torrential rain. He clarified a crucial detail. Contrary to Megan's belief that Larry was the house's owner, the property was actually in my name. My uncle, who ran a real estate business, had secured a great deal on a condo recommended by Larry, and the property had been put under my name. a decision I hadn't given much thought to at the time, but now deeply appreciated. Following my uncle's advice, I decided to hire a lawyer. The legal expert informed us that evicting Megan could be challenging and suggested that placing her in a care facility might be the most viable solution. Upon hearing this, I immediately called Larry to update him on the situation. Caught off guard by the rapid escalation, Larry expressed his desire to return from New Zealand for a thorough discussion. He mentioned considering the option of placing Megan in a care facility. Meanwhile, Megan, still unaware of these discussions, casually snacked on crackers at the police station, oblivious to the fact that she might not be able to return home with us. I decided to stay with my parents while waiting for Larry to come back. Larry was due back in a week, giving me some quiet time to think about our future. If Larry wasn't going to support me, then pursuing a divorce seemed like the inevitable choice. I regretted not seeking advice earlier. A week passed, and upon Larry's return from his travels, I moved back home. Larry had a brief stint in New Zealand before he was scheduled to leave for Europe, pressing us to discuss important matters quickly. During this time, I had heard some unsettling claims from Anna's uncle about Megan's behavior. When confronted, Megan fiercely denied the accusations, asserting they were fabrications aimed at having her removed from the home. Surprisingly, Larry seemed open to hearing Megan's side of the story, questioning if there was any proof of Anna's allegations. "No evidence at all," Megan asserted. In response, Larry turned to me, asking if I had any proof. Although work had kept me occupied, I managed to provide a voice recorder that I had brought with me. Puzzled, Larry played the device and was met with recordings of Megan's tirades, not only attempting to evict me, but also repeatedly belittling me, calling me a worthless wife. Megan tried to dismiss her harsh words as out of context, but the playback continued, unveiling a barrage of verbal abuse, some instances of which hadn't even been recorded. Larry's hand shook with visible anger as he listened. Despite her guilt, Megan weakly justified her outbursts, claiming they were isolated incidents caused by frustration. Yet, the continuous stream of harsh recordings spoke louder than her excuses. Larry was silent after questioning her, his demeanor showing his determination to protect me and our daughter, Catherine. Megan, seeing this side of Larry for the first time, seemed shocked and at a loss for words. As discussions carried on until Larry's departure back to Europe, I firmly stated that I could no longer live with Megan, especially with Catherine's well-being to consider. Larry agreed, leaning towards the possibility of placing Megan in a care facility for better management of the situation. Despite Megan's strong opposition, the discussions around her future grew complicated. However, given the need to prioritize my daughter Catherine's welfare and our future, I made the tough decision to sell the house. "If you're not willing to move to the facility, you'll need to find somewhere else to live," I told Megan firmly. She resisted, not wanting to sell the house, but moving to Europe became a necessity for us, especially to ensure that Larry could be more involved with his family. Living abroad was a daunting thought, but knowing that Larry would be with us made the decision easier. Catherine, who was only 3 years old, would also have the opportunity to develop her language skills in a new environment. Selling the condo, which was still under mortgage, emerged as the only feasible solution. Keeping the house was not an option, as it was unrealistic to expect Megan, who was on a fixed income, to manage the mortgage payments. Considering her needs and future, it was clear that Megan required assistance. Yet, she staunchly refused to move into a care facility. Ultimately, we had to make the difficult decision to place her there against her wishes. "I'm sorry, but I need to return to Europe. Can you handle the necessary procedures here?" Larry asked before his departure. With support from friends and family, I managed to complete the required steps for Megan's transition into the facility. The staff kept me updated on her condition, which, unfortunately, was not good. It would have been one thing if she were simply unhappy, but she was also causing disturbances within the facility. Before leaving for Europe, I visited Megan to see how she was doing. However, she lashed out, upset and confused about her situation. "What's the big idea? Why have you locked me up in this place?" she exclaimed. Her frustration spilled over to the facility staff as well, as she complained about the food, the discomfort of the beds, and unpleasant interactions with other residents. When I apologized to the staff at the facility, they responded with understanding. "It's all good," one of them assured me. "We often see this kind of behavior. Just leave it to us. We'll keep you updated. If anything comes up, we'll give you a call. So don't worry." Even though I had faced a lot of harassment from Megan during our time together, I couldn't shake off my concerns as I prepared to leave for Europe. Upon arriving in Madrid, Larry greeted me warmly at the airport, and we made our way to the apartment we had rented. While it's true that rent prices in Madrid can be steep compared to Arkansas, Larry's housing allowance from his company was a blessing, allowing us to find a spacious and affordable place. Our neighbors in the building have been incredibly friendly, going out of their way to help me feel welcome. Even though my French isn't perfect, I've been making an effort to communicate. Just yesterday, a neighbor invited me over to share some wine and cheese, and I happily reciprocated with homemade mac and cheese. Meanwhile, I've been gradually learning French along with my daughter, Catherine. Acknowledging the limitations of self-study, I enrolled in a language school, where I've made friends with other Americans who are also new to Spain. Life in Madrid is genuinely enjoyable. Back in the States, my constant concern for Megan often overshadowed my ability to relax and enjoy outings with friends. Here in Madrid, I can savor leisurely lunches without that weight on my shoulders. The only concern I currently have is about Catherine, who is still too young for kindergarten. Typically, children here start school at the age of 6, so I hope Catherine picks up enough French by then. Thankfully, she seems to be catching on quickly. Once Catherine starts preschool, I'm considering getting a job. Although Larry is supportive of me staying at home, living in Madrid has sparked a desire in me to explore more opportunities. Through my new friendship with a waitress at a nearby cafe, I discovered there might be job openings there. The cafe is popular among the American community, and many customers come in to learn English, which makes for a welcoming atmosphere. While challenges may still arise, I've noticed a significant improvement in our communication since coming to Spain. I feel more confident expressing my feelings. No matter what lies ahead, I believe we'll face it together as a family. Right now, I'm experiencing a level of happiness I've never felt before, and it feels liberating to embrace this new chapter in our lives.